Today, we are talking with Brie Thomason, who is based here in Idaho in Mountain Home. She is a wife, a photographer, a dog mom to 2 Australian Shepherds. In addition to that, if you go to her website, you'll quickly find out that she's also the owner of 2 coffee shops, with a 3rd just breaking ground now. So she is a well-versed entrepreneur. Although she is located in Idaho, she does travel worldwide. Some locations recently has been Italy, New York, and Hawaii. And today we're just going to talk about her and what got her into this, so that if you're thinking about hiring her, this could be a good introduction to who is Brie as a photographer and why you'd want to work with her.
It's always so funny to hear your bio after you write it out.
It's fun to get the bits and pieces from it. So talk to me a little bit about photography and how you got into it.
So I started in 2013. Actually, one of my customers at the coffee shop was a professional photographer, and I always would talk to her about it because it was such a passion of mine. I just had never had the time to pursue it. And so I always asked her questions about it. And one day she was like, why don't you just come out with me? Like, bring your camera and we'll just go shoot for fun. And I was like, really? Because I aspired to be her so much. Like, she truly was my idol at the time. And so I went out with her one day, and she had a friend that was just kind of modeling for us. And we talked everything about photography and settings. And at that time, I was like totally shooting in auto with, my family's old DSLR that they had handed down. And my friend Liza was showing me how I could shoot in manual and was telling me that I needed to buy this lens and all this stuff. And so um, I feel like that moment was just such a propulsion to what my career would soon become. And so, funny enough, since then, she has moved on to other passions. And now occasionally she'll even come out and second shoot for me, or still talk to me about photography. But she laughs because she's like, I love how I sat there and taught you that. And now you have this full blown career out of it. And I told her that I'm just so grateful for her, though, because had she not taken the time to go out with me and show me that kind of stuff, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And that was way back in 2013. Since then, I photographed a little over 200 weddings. I've been all over the world photographing weddings. So it's a pretty cool thing.
Isn't it crazy to look back just at these like specific moments that were huge turning points?
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes I felt guilty in the beginning of my career that some people, I don't know if you felt this, but in the past, if you had 2 jobs, I felt like if you weren't totally just photography, that people didn't take you seriously. And so sometimes I would hide that I had the coffee shops. And then I had this moment where I was like, well, one, if I wouldn't have had the coffee shops, I wouldn't have met her, and that wouldn't have led me to become a photographer. And 2, I think that there's something to be said about running a company with almost 50 employees and managing all of that at the same time. I mean, I don't necessarily go in and work shifts every single day at the coffee shop anymore because I have 2 incredible managers and there's just a lot of moving parts. So my job now is more of an owner side and running our marketing. And ironically, I take all of our photos for the coffee shop for like our social media and stuff. So um, it's just kind of a funny, weird balance between having multiple facets and running multiple companies at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like they kind of assist you in the different categories. Running the coffee shop probably makes you a better photographer, and then vice versa. But it's nice too. I mean, would you think that when I hear you say that, it's funny the stories we tell ourselves of what could be negatives or how we think people might consider things. But it's kind of nice because I feel like that would almost take off the pressure from wedding photography a little bit in terms of financial, which would then allow you to not have to take on so many things, not get maybe burnt out in a season because you feel like you have to take on so many weddings, which means you get to take on the weddings that you want and give the attention you want to those couples.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I only take on 8 weddings a year right now. And I do that because I want to give each couple a full deal. Like, I want them to have me and only me. I only want to focus on their weddings. And it's funny because ironically, I do have the time with the coffee shops because I don't have to be in there all the time. But I also know how important it is to give full my attention. And like you said, like I have the ability with the coffee shops that financially I'm not as stressed about like, okay, I have to hit this many weddings in order for me to, pay my mortgage or little things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously I still use my photography income. It's a big part of our lives, but also it's so nice. Like you said, I can be a little more particular about which weddings I take on and which ones are going to fuel me as an artist, because I think that that's super important too, that I don't do it because I have to. I do it because I really want to. And so when I take on a wedding, I am looking forward to that wedding for whether it's 6 months, 8 months, a year. I'm like looking forward to them. I'm following them on Instagram. I'm looking at their design things. I'm staying in touch with their planner, and we're talking about the design elements of their wedding coming up. I'm already planning their flat lays and working with their stationer. Like, it's such a big process for me because I'm so invested in those 8 weddings that I'm taking on.
Talking about that whole process of the planning and working with the wedding planner, what advice do you have for couples as they're going through that planning process? Maybe things that you constantly say to couples or encourage them in, or
I would just say trust your vendors. A big part of where I'm at in my photography journey is that all of my clients do have a full service planner. And so typically, ironically, they will find the planner before they will find me. And a lot of times, I don't even end up meeting my clients in person until their wedding day. But the reason that the planner has suggested me to the clients is because they've vetted me, they've worked with me, they've seen my work, they know how I work, they know my professionalism, they know my team, and they know that I would be the best fit for their client. And so I would just encourage clients to really trust their vendor team and trust that their planner has picked the best people for them because of their experience in the industry and knowing that these are going to be the people who are going to provide them the wedding that they have always dreamt of.
so talk to me about where did film enter for you? So going from digital to film.
So in high school, I took a film class. I feel like everyone says that, right? Like we all, I don't know if that's still a thing, but in
I
high
didn't
school
take
we
a film
had
class.
really, it was so fun. We had the dark room and we would do our prints and everything and enlarge our own photos and go through the developing process. And while it was very fun, I will say that it never really like sparked that creativity in me because the class was very much like take a picture of street signs and take a picture of go out and find this emotion or something. And it was fun, but I didn't realize that I truly had a passion in photographing people until I had started my photography journey in 2013 and started photographing. At first, it was like seniors and then families, and then moved on and I shot my first wedding. And as soon as I shot my first wedding, I was like, Bing, this is it. This is what I have been missing out on. I thrive in kind of the not chaos, but the chaotic energy of a wedding where there's a timeline and we have to get things in. I think that's probably where my little coffee shop experience comes in is, the lines are 20 cars deep and you're running as fast as you can, but everything has to be perfect at the same time. And I think that's where my worlds collide. But as far as film goes, I took that class, I did film, I shot film, and I wasn't totally inspired by it. But then when I became a photographer, and I'm sure this has happened to you, we start following everyone on social media and you start looking at all of their work and you start saying, this inspires me, this inspires me, this inspires me. I want my work to look like this. And I kept finding the common denominator in how I wanted my work to look was always film. And so I started buying all the presets that would make your work look like film. And I tried it and I tried it and I tried it. And I kept saying, there's just something missing. And so I bought my first, it was a Pentax 645, which is a medium format film camera. And I shot my first session with it. Horrible. I mean, I had a lot of perfecting to do. But even that first session, I said, yep, this is what I was missing. There's something about film. It's even hard for me, someone who shoots it all the time, to even describe it in words, but there is a magic sauce. And when you see it, you see it. It almost looks like this little painterly feeling, the texture, the tones, all of it is just as if you were there and you could feel it. Like when you see the most beautiful sunset and you're like, I'm going to take a picture on my iPhone. You try to take a picture and it doesn't do it justice. I feel like film is the closest that we're going to get to that actual feeling of when we were there and we saw it and we felt it. Big part of that, obviously, film has a huge dynamic range, way more than a lot of digital cameras. And so there is true scientific things that are making that happen, but also just the way that film captures is so beautiful. I also found that when I started shooting film, it changed my process. I'm not slower in the sense that I'm missing moments, but I'm slower in the sense that, as funny as it is, every single time I click that shutter button, it's $3. I wish that was a lie. And it's going up. So it's probably more like $4 right now. So now when I'm looking at an image or a moment, I'm not just clicking just to click. I'm actually sitting there and saying, you know what, on this flat lay, for instance, maybe I should recheck, make sure the papers are straight, because I'm not just clicking and then being like, oops, that was crooked, let me fix it now. I'm actually sitting there and making sure that that was what I wanted before I click that shutter, because it just slows you down a little bit. I also manually focus on my film cameras, and I'm getting very fast at it, but it also just kind of gives you a moment to just like breathe in between things. And I found that my clients love that because it's not slower. Slower is the wrong word for it, but it's just more peaceful, because when I'm taking their portraits and things, it's not like I'm running around them. I'm sure you've seen that funny video that went around where the guy was doing like the parkour around the couple and was, have you seen that? Yeah. So I can't be that way, right? Like I have to be a little bit more like, oh, that's perfect. Hold that for me. Okay, take a deep breath, because I'm manually focusing as I'm moving around my clients. And so it's just changed my process. And I found that, I mean, I do shoot with digital and film. And sometimes I found that when I switch to my digital camera, I'm like, you need to slow down, Brie, because you're just like click, 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 click. And I get home and I'm like, why did I need 25 of this exact image? I needed one perfect one. So that was a really long-winded way to tell you why I love film. Can you tell I love it? Yeah, I think that my clients want to feel like themselves. They want to not feel like they're walking in and they're fitting into this cookie cutter wedding photography, wedding poses. They want their wedding to be captured in a way that tells their story. And so that's one of the things that I talk to my clients about a lot, is that throughout your wedding day, there's going to be moments where I have to take the lead and I have to move people around and I have to put you guys in situations like family formals, for instance, of the wedding day. If I'm not taking charge and I'm just letting the free for all moment happen, nothing will get done and everyone will be stressed because there's just too much going on. So there are times that it's important for me to take the lead and to be like, okay, guys, we're doing this, come over here, stand here, everyone smile, and it's going to fit kind of that wedding photography mold. But there are several times throughout the day too where I just let moments happen and I kind of take a fly on the wall approach, because I want the wedding to feel authentic to my couples. I want the posing and the direction that I give to my clients to allow their personalities and their affection and their PDA and their love to shine through. So, for instance, giving direction like, okay, guys, I'm going to have you hold hands and I want you to go for just a little walk away from me. In that, I hope that my clients take the time as they're doing that little walk away from me, that if, he wants to reach over and give her a kiss on the cheek, or if, she grabs his hand and pulls it behind her back so that they're closer, I hope that I give my clients the space to not feel like they can't do something, because that feels natural in the time. And I found that some of my best images are when the clients are laughing because they cracked each other up, or when they're going on a walk and they just look at each other at that exact moment and you can see the love between their eyes. And so that's what I found, is that my clients are attracted to the authenticity of their story together and how I'm able to capture that in photographs.
I love that. I talk with couples and they'll say similar things to me about they want moments captured, or they'll say something like, we want it to feel authentic. And it's funny because that's a good word to say, but like in reality, it's like, well, what's that actually look like on a wedding day for it to come to fruition? And I was
Yeah.
on Instagram and I saw a shot where somebody was filming some couple. It was like, it was like a royal wedding or something like that. But the bride, they're standing and there's like some formal event going on. The bride just looks at her husband and like quickly winks at him. I tried to wink
Oh, I
before
saw that.
waving. Uh, Quickly winks, and it's just like, and I love that because I'm like, it's those small, tiny, quick moments. And granted, that one was just, they're kind of doing a nod to probably what's happening, but it's that little thing. It happens. It's like there's no redoing it, and it tells you something about that couple. It tells you like how they feel about things or the way they're responding. And I tell couples, I say it's moments like that that happen within moments. So yes, you putting your dress on is going to be beautiful, But there'll be a moment where your mom does something, right? If she's helping you put the dress on, or there's a moment where if the groom sees you coming down the aisle, it's like, what's he going to do? Is he going to laugh? Is he going to cover up his face? Is he going to, is he going to cry? Is he going to look away? It's like, what is that one thing that's going to happen that then tells you about them? And it's like, it's not because anybody told you to do it. So yeah, it is very much that fly on the wall. And it's like capturing as many of those unplanned moments as possible end up making, I think, some of the sweetest stuff, because you're like, no, that's like you caught them doing something, and hopefully they were comfortable enough to, and you made enough space for that, for them to be that way.
I always tell my clients, especially if we do a first look and I have that moment with the groom before I go grab the bride and stuff, I always tell the groom, I'm like, hey, there are no rules. Like I said, you have one rule. Don't turn around until she says she's ready. But there are no rules. Like whatever expectations you have right now of how you're supposed to act, how you're supposed to do something, throw those out, because you need to react in a way that is you. And if you're trying to fake it or you're trying to do something that you think is expected of you, it's not going to come out and be true to who you guys are and your story and your wedding day. And so I feel like that always gives the grooms permission to take a deep breath and be like, okay, whew. He's like, can I kiss her? I'm like, yes, there are no rules. You can do whatever you want when you see your
Can I
bride. Like
kiss
this
her?
is your wedding day. I know, it's always so cute. He's like, can I hug her? I'm like, oh my word, just go do whatever you want. Do whatever makes you comfortable right now.
It's like, where have we failed that you need to ask me that? It's like, I love it. It's like you got to release them to
I
just
know,
be
it's
themselves.
hilarious.
Great. Well, I think we'll wrap it up here. If you listened to this, thank you guys so much. If you enjoyed Brie, she could be your wedding photographer. You want to learn more about her, you can find her at www.briethomason.com. That's BRIETHOMASON.com. And then same thing and Instagram, Brie.Thomason. Thanks so much, Brie. And if you guys are watching this and you want to do another video with us, we are about to record another one where we're going to talk about the best time to get married in Idaho because of the mountain and the lights and all the effects that has on your ceremony time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.